What's going on YouTube, and welcome back here to another day here in the MC Parks Magic server. I'll be answering your guys' questions once again here today, and if you have any of your own questions that you would like me to answer, maybe your question will be featured on the next Disney Q&A. So without further ado, let's get into today's loaded list of questions. So the first question, we're going to go out with a bang here. So can you rank the last three Disney CEOs between Eisner, Iger, of course they had to do that, and Bob Chapek? So the first one is kind of easy, unfortunately. Bob Chapek was not put in a position to succeed at Disney, and I think ever since the day he was brought in, a lot of people already had mixed opinions, considering he came from consumer products. And that showed. He just didn't have enough versatility in Disney to understand how to run a company. And unfortunately for Bob Chapek, I'm not one of those people that wishes ill on him, but he just was not the right guy for Disney. And it's one of those things where it's easy for us to sit from the sidelines and say he should have done this and that, but it really came down to he just was not fit for the role. Now we get to 2 and 1. So 3 is Chapek. 2, I'm going to go with Iger. I'm really disappointed with Iger's lack of creativity with the company. I think he's very averse to any sort of experiments, right? We've seen that since he came in. There's no original IP attractions. The only original IP attraction was under Iger was Expedition Everest, and that was something that was greenlit under Michael Eisner, so it's not even something that he greenlit as an attraction. You know, I think under Bob Iger we would have never seen something like Muppet Vision. We would have never seen some of the things that we've seen in the Disney parks, just would have never been built or done under Bob Iger. It's just he was, unless it was a for sure, no doubt about it, equivocal success, he's not going to do it. And I think they're very averse to going outside the box and trying different things, and that's been really a problem with Disney that has been very frustrating over the years. But it is what it is. It happens. But I'm not a huge fan of Bob Iger, and of course that means Michael Eisner. Kind of following up from my last Q&A. I really liked Michael Eisner. I think Michael Eisner had his flaws, as every Disney CEO has had, but it seemed like there was more things that you could look at that were positive than negative. And I think the negatives weren't outweighed by the positives with Eisner as much as they are with Iger and Chapek. And I think this company is so focused on just bringing in money at this point that they kind of have forgotten what they are. And that was something that was lost under Eisner, in my opinion. And even toward the end of Eisner's era, he started falling into that too, which is part of the reason he got ousted, was because he lost that Disney touch once Frank Wells passed away. So I think it's one of those things where Disney, this has been going on for a while, but I really hope the next CEO or whoever comes in is able to refine that magic in the company, because it is trickling down. You're starting to see it with cast members and people at the company. It's not, as much as it's very magical, it does feel like it's losing that touch over time. So hopefully they're able to get that back, and hopefully that continues. So to answer it quick, Chapek, Iger, and then Eisner are my 3. I'm going to Disney World next year, and I want to know which moderate resort you would pick. Thanks. So this is a great question. So I typically go to moderate resorts, so this is a perfect question for me. It's in that price range where I'm not necessarily going to the deluxe resorts, but I'm not going to I guess you could say the lower scale motel style All Stars and Pop Century and things like that. So to answer your question here pretty quick, I'm going to go with, this is a tough one. I'm going to go with Caribbean Beach. I went to Caribbean Beach before the refurbishment in 2016, and most recently in 2023 with the new refurbishments and things like that. I think they have one of the best pools for a moderate resort. They have the Skyliner, and it's also moderately priced. It's one of the more expensive moderates, but I really enjoy this one. I've also been to, Port Orleans Riverside. I think that's another very different type of environment. It's much more along the lines of like Fort Wilderness. It's much more out there. And I think I was in the alligator area, and it's very different than the rest of Disney. It feels like you're very removed from Disney, which is for some people right up people's alley. But if you're looking for something that's very like Disney heavy and themed, maybe don't do Riverside. On my next trip, I was actually considering going to Port Orleans French Quarter. So if I end up going to the French Quarter, I'll give you guys an update on what I think of that. But great question. I would go with Caribbean Beach. I'm going to Disney in the next couple of months, preferably November. Okay, so you're not necessarily locked in yet. But either way, which Disney park should we go to on our first day of our trip? So that's a great question. And it's kind of a loaded question because if I was going to tell you a specific park, I would actually tell you one of the water parks. So January 1st of 2024, Disney announced that they were going to give free water park admission to anybody staying at a Disney hotel. Now, this is a really nice perk if you're coming to Disney on a budget, and let's say you get to Disney World really early. Let's say you have the earliest flight out of your airport, you get to Disney World by 11, 12 o'clock in the morning. You basically have either a full day or at least a half day at the water parks. Now, there's a lot of caveats to this as well. There's also the event that maybe, it rains that first day, or your flight gets delayed, or the water parks close, I think, at 3 or 4 p.m. So if you don't get there pretty much by 12 o'clock, you're not really going to get even a day's worth of a water park. So it's kind of one of those things Disney's like, yeah, you get free water park access, but if you get to Disney World after 12 o'clock, and you're not ready to go to the water parks, you might only get 1 to 3 hours at the park at best. So it's one of those things where I would do something like that if you're on a budget. But in terms of the theme parks and you're paying for it, I definitely recommend Magic Kingdom. I think that is, especially if it's your first time going to Disney World, I think the best first park to go to get that experience of the castle reveal and really get the feeling that you're at Walt Disney World. There is no better place to start than Cinderella's Castle and the Magic Kingdom. And then the last question for today is another question kind of going alongside with the CEO questions and Bob Iger. Disney recently had Bob Iger came out with a kind of a press conference talking about how Disney is no longer going to use Disney IPs, like original Disney IPs in the theme parks, and he wanted to know my thoughts on that. So yes, that was recently said by Bob Iger, but this isn't anything new. Like I said earlier in the video, Expedition Everest is the only original IP attraction in the Bob Iger era, and that was greenlit under Eisner. So this is nothing new. This isn't anything I was really expecting. It's not really shocking, but it's more so indicative of the direction of the Disney parks. Disney is very averse to original IP. Anything that isn't going to draw attention from the casual non-Disney fan, that's who they're targeting. So if it doesn't have Encanto or Coco or Moana stickered onto it, we're probably not going to see that coming to any of the Disney parks anytime soon. And as much as that's a shame, that is where Disney is today in 2024. And it's kind of just something we need to accept today. But that is a question that, I'm not terribly surprised by that. But that's, like I said, that's nothing really new if you've been around for a while, but it is a shame to hear. So that's going to do it for today's Disney Q&A. If you have any questions that you would like me to answer, let me know in the comments down below, and maybe I'll answer it in the next Disney Q&A. Guys, thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you again next time. Peace out, guys.